Imagine a pilot saying, "We are currently experiencing suboptimal flight conditions with an uncertain short-term forecast, while the engine is visibly on fire." Would this calm you, or would it make you panic even more? Welcome to the paradox of language. Have you noticed how our language has changed recently? Every day you hear these weird phrases: negative growth, friendly fire, nuanced perspective, ethical warfare, or clinical intervention. Many of these phrases are obviously absurd, and others require a degree in linguistics just to decode the intent. How do you feel when you hear this? Do you trust it? More importantly, do you use it at home? Do you tell your children, "Please avoid presenting alternative facts," instead of "Do not lie to me"? Does your partner inform you that they've been right-sized due to negative growth caused by a market correction? If this were a natural development of language, we would use it with the people we love. But we don't. I see two main reasons for this strange tendency. We live in the freest society in history, yet we are afraid to express ourselves in an honest and straightforward way. You write an email and rewrite it 5 times, not because your words are wrong, but because you are afraid of a negative reaction. We use vague, ambiguous words to avoid being attacked. We use soft padding to cover unpleasant truths. This is the fear of expression in action. As soon as a word becomes too real or carries too much heat, we discard it for a softer one. Officials don't say a kid failed anymore. They say they had a suboptimal educational outcome. SpaceX doesn't say a rocket exploded, they call it an unscheduled disassembly. Even doctors, afraid of the weight of honesty, often use soft, optimistic language rather than a blunt clinical assessment of a patient's situation. But this type of language is not just used to protect our feelings. The language is also used deliberately to deflect you from the truth. As George Orwell once noted, political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable. When they say stabilization mission, you don't think about the occupation of a country. Peacekeeping operation gives you a diffuse, abstract perception that hides the reality of bombs and the killing of innocent people. Manipulation becomes curated reality. Censorship becomes content moderation. Human exploitation becomes productivity gains. We even do this with technology to hide its physical footprint. We talk about the cloud, which sounds like a light, ethereal heaven where our data lives. In reality, it is millions of tons of humming silicon, copper, and cooling fans in massive warehouses consuming staggering amounts of energy. The word cloud detaches the digital world from its environmental footprint. Similarly, we are told to be data-driven. It sounds objective and scientific, but in reality it is a linguistic shield used by leaders to avoid personal responsibility. If the data said so, no human has to be the bad guy. And we blindly accept this dissolution of meaning every single day. Think about the terms of service pages required by every tiny smartphone app. They present us with thousands of words of impossible, weaponized language. It is language explicitly designed not to be read, an intellectual exhaustion tactic. By making the language completely impenetrable, they force us into a state of deliberate ignorance. We click agree just to make the wall of text go away, completely dismissing the reality of what we just signed away. This tactic of using language to legally bypass the victim is ancient. Consider the Requerimiento of the 16th century, a document read by Spanish conquistadors to indigenous populations. It was read in Latin or Spanish, languages the listeners didn't understand, informing them that they were now subjects of the crown and the church. If they didn't submit, the legal door was open for their slaughter. We live in the era of the modern Requerimiento. Today, the state or giant corporations present us with information we barely understand. Dense, clinical terms of service, market adjustments, or legislative frameworks. They speak in a jargon designed to be impenetrable, effectively reading the document to us in a language we don't speak. Then when we don't object because we can't understand, they proceed with exactly what they initially intended to do, ignoring public opinion and consequences under the guise of informed consent. Perhaps the most absurd example of this linguistic hypnosis is how we view powerful institutions with long history of murder and oppression. We use words like sacred, tradition, to cover old crimes, and we actively deploy strange words like blasphemy to keep clear-thinking people away. It is documented that through various crusades, inquisitions and colonial conversions, the church presided over the deaths of millions and the systematic torture of countless more. Yet because they use God as a permanent undercover operation, we don't treat them as a historical crime scene. We show immense respect to the workers of this organisation, while in the same breath we ban individuals or cancel organisations for mere ideological wrong-speak or symbolic transgressions. We have seen people lose their entire livelihoods over a single, poorly phrased tweet or an unpopular opinion, yet we grant a pass to an institution that has centuries of physical blood on its hands. It is the ultimate triumph of narrative over reality. We are gradually anesthetizing our language, and slowly we are becoming numb. When words lose precision, truth becomes negotiable. This anesthesia has worked so well that we've started tolerating the absurd. We look at a graph and genuinely believe GDP numbers equal human well-being, completely blind to the devastation of the nature. We look at a phone screen and convince ourselves that 5,000 digital followers are real friends. We mistake access to information for actual wisdom, as if standing inside a library suddenly makes you educated. We know that 90% survival sounds better than 10% mortality, so we relax. We hear enhanced interrogation and think it's a bureaucratic procedure, even though it is just a polite word for torture. I wonder how far we can go before the bridge between our words and our world collapses entirely. Language and symbols have replaced our direct contact with reality. We urgently need to return to reality. We need to return to precision. Clear language is not brutality. It is simple honesty. Truth doesn't need decoration. Only manipulation does. Honesty is not hostility. If somebody feels attacked by calm, clear language, the problem is not the speaker. The problem is an inability to face reality. The world would be a healthier place if we started calling things what they are. Greed is greed, power is power, and manipulation is manipulation. To speak clearly without shouting, and to disagree without needing to humiliate, that isn't aggression. That is maturity. And right now, our culture is acting deeply immature. We are trading our reality for mental comfort, but comfort is a terrible trade when the price tag is your mind.